If you've been watching my channel for a while, then you'll remember the video I did on the Carrera Panamericana. One of the coolest and the most dangerous race ever, like per capita, I guess. Throughout that video, among the stories of the course's danger, the bravery of the drivers, all of that pretentious shit, one of the main things discussed was the technological progression of cars in the short time the race was run, mainly by comparing the fastest time of the first running to the fastest time of the last running in the slowest class. Well, in the top class of the 1954 running of the event was a car I actually missed when originally researching the video. A car that was brought to my attention by a comment from Caledonia Railway 1323, so Mr. or Miss or Mrs. Caledonian, thank you. This car was an absolute fucking marvel of engineering, considering the time period it was made in, and even more so considering the fact that the manufacturer that made it was dedicated to making trucks up to that point. Only the stinkiest car nerds and Spanish people know what I'm talking about. So let's introduce all the normal people with normal lives to one of the shortest lived cool car companies ever, Pegaso. Welcome to the Archives, a collection of videos of me talking about forgotten, discontinued, and defunct pieces of car history to spread the joy and pain of knowing about what happened to these critical pieces of car history. Not only is it nostalgic or just cool to look back on these once global brands and ideas, but it's important to make sure that they aren't forgotten, because eventually, if we stop talking about them one day, they will be. The story of Pegaso, like with a lot of other car manufacturers, starts with the country recovering from World War II. INASA was created by the Spanish government after the war to lead the nation into industrialization. After using the old headquarters of Hispano Suiza, not the F1 Hispano Suiza, that was a completely different thing from a completely different guy, a Spanish engineer named Wilfredo Ricard was named the director of the company, and not long after, the Pegaso brand was founded. A good thing to keep note of with Wilfredo over here, yes, by the way, this is literally only like one of the 3 photos that exist of him. He was an engineer and designer at Alfa Romeo before the war. And if you know anything about Alfa, then you'll know that they were those guys before the war, the Italian car brand. So, Wilfredo had quite a lot of knowledge in his cranium that could be utilized to create some of the greatest trucks ever made. Trucks? Pegaso began as a commercial and military vehicle manufacturer that created their first vehicles, the Z202 and the Z203, or Z202, Z203 for, I guess for my loyalist Canadians, off the design of a Hispano Suiza Fiat truck. However, the engines were made in-house, which is cool. From 1947, the year the company was founded, to 1951, these 2 trucks and their subvariants were the only product Pegaso made. If I had to guess, once Wilfredo got bored of making trucks that were incredibly reliable, light, yet extremely torquey and therefore capable of hauling big-ass shit, he remembered that he worked at Alfa Romeo and was like, what did we make at Alfa Romeo? Sports cars! Us! We make sports cars! And that is where we get the legendarily forgotten Pegaso Z102. Just to give all the folks who are like me and didn't know what the hell this thing was, some sort of base information, it had an in-house dual overhead cam V8 that could either have a 2.5, 2.8, or 3.2 liter displacement, and had the ability to be supercharged on top of that, which brought its power output up to 360 horsepower in 1951. It had a rear-mounted 5-speed transaxle transmission that was mounted behind the differential, which made weight distribution an ideal 50-50 split and the shifts incredibly quick. It used a Dion suspension, which, to be simple, meant that it always had optimal tire to ground contact through corners and reduced unsprung weight, making the wheels a lot more stable. It also was the fastest production car in the world for 8 years. So, yeah. Now, I'm going to be honest, I couldn't find a reason why Ricard allowed Pegaso, I think it's Pegaso actually, my fault, to make this thing. So my reasoning of him suddenly remembering he was a great race engineer is probably like 63% correct. The Z102 was incredibly technologically advanced for the time. Most notably, using dual overhead cams and the transaxle 5-speed wasn't really commonplace for sports cars until later in the 50s and even pretty deep in the 60s. Additionally, and this is more subjective, but you know, this whole channel is subjective, I guess, the thing looks beautiful. All 4 different designers and coach builders that took a crack at this thing did their jobs well. And yes, 4 different, completely distinct designs of the Z02 exist that were all designed by a different person or group. The first design of the Z102 was done by Ricard himself, and you know, I'd say he did a pretty damn good job. You know, it's hard to fuck up a design when the base body looks so good. Eventually, carrozzeria, I think it's carrozzeria. I'm just going to say carrozzeria. I don't want to have to put on an Italian accent, I'm sorry. Eventually, carrozzeria came in to, fulfill the whole bodywork demand, and they tweaked the design to the most iconic version of the Z102, tied with a model I'll actually talk about soon. In my opinion, carrozzeria did a good job, better than Ricard, I think, but it's definitely not the outright best. That goes to Sau Chic. These are fucking gorgeous, man. I'm pretty indifferent to the headlights sloping backwards, but my god, everything else is like beautiful. I think it looks better with the roof up, by the way. I think it looks a little better with the little slope at the back. But even with the roof down, the shit is stunning, man. Look at it. It's a damn shame that out of the 84 Z102s made, only 18 of them were Sau Chic ones. The rest were split between the Ricard design and carrozzeria. Except for 2 of them. Some students at a university were prompted by Wilfredo Ricard and Pegaso to draw sketches of what they believed the cars of the future would look like. Using some of the elements from their sketches, Pegaso created this, the Z102 Cupola. These are not good looking, alright? Maybe it's just the fact that the only authentic one is painted in McDick's color scheme, but I don't know. It's definitely unique. It would fit in the Jetsons, I guess that was kind of the point, but yeah, not exactly their crowning achievement in my extremely humble opinion. And one of them was sold to Rafael Trujillo, aka El Jefe, and probably one of the worst humans ever made. I'd say bottom 20 for sure. He was so retarded. Oh, I was actually sorry. I got a comment saying somebody wanted to show their friends my videos. I can't say retarded as much. I'm sorry. He also did something really stupid. There you go. He named every road in the capital Santo Domingo to Trujillo. So you would live on Trujillo Avenue and you'd go to work on Trujillo Street, but Trujillo Boulevard was blocked, so you had to take Trujillo Lane. So as you could imagine, it made life hell for everyone. Coming back to Pegaso though, the Z102's racing history is pretty limited, competing in the 1952 Monaco Grand Prix, 1953 24 Hours of Le Mans, and most importantly to me, at least, the 1954 Carrera Panamericana, where it was performing extremely well until a crash led to damage that was beyond repairable under the Panamericana's rules. If you remember, the rules were pretty fucking stupid. Unlike many other crashes during the running of the race though, the driver, Joaquin Power, survived, which is actually a pretty good testament to how safe the cars were. An officer did die after getting hit by the car, and that was the death I missed in my original video when I said there was no mention of who the spectator that passed was, so rest in peace, that guy. Within the realm of motorsports though, the Z102 was, as I mentioned earlier, definitely not just defined by its failure, in quotes, at high level racing. While it's contestable as the car was in such limited production that it was basically a prototype, the Z102 was the world's fastest production car from 1951 till 1959 when it was beaten by the Aston Martin DB4. May I remind you all that the fastest car in the Panamericana in 1950 finished the race in 27 hours, right? The fastest car in 1954, 4 years later, finished in 17 hours. Cars progressed incredibly rapidly throughout the 50s, so for the Z102 to hold this position of being the fastest for basically the entire decade, it's impressive enough that it held the record at all, but to hold it for 8 fucking years in the 50s? When everybody was figuring out that aerodynamics kind of matter and that what happens if you put a 17-liter engine in a Ferrari? I don't know. You mean to tell me it held its record for 8 years? That's ridiculous. This car, made by a company nobody even knew outside of Spain, beat the likes of Porsche, Mercedes, Aston Martin, and most funnily, I'll explain later, Ferrari, for 8 years straight. They also raced trucks in the 80s, so I don't need to expand on that because truck racing is just wicked. At a base level, it's just incredibly cool, so I don't even need to expand on it. The Z102 was a marvel of engineering. However, it was also a marvel of return on investment failure. So Pegaso moved to create a cheaper version of the Z102 in 1955 and introduced the Z103, which was basically the same, but it used an overhead valve V8 that could have a 3.9, 4.5 or 4.7 liter displacement. Only 3 of them were made, but one of them was, and I can't stress this enough, reportedly fitted with better carbs and a supercharger that pushed its output to 350 horsepower and its top speed to 171 miles an hour in 1955. And it was a road car. In the years after, some parts were picked up and eventually stitched together in 1962 to make one more Z103, and after that, it's done. Pegaso stopped the production of the Z102 and 103 in 1958. And with that final 103 made in 1962, they never made another sports car again. They switched back to commercial and military vehicle manufacturing, even scoring a contract to supply the Egyptian army in the 70s. For 30 odd years after the last Z102s and 103s were made, Pegaso became renowned in Spain for basically being the backbone of the country's industrialization efforts that modernized it, even if it had to happen under fucking good old cranky Frankie Franco. So in 1990, Iveco bought out Inasa and took Pegaso with it, leading to the last ever in-house engine being made in 1995. Pegaso still exists today as a secondary company under Iveco, but Spain is still extremely fond of the company and its legacy to this day. Speaking of that legacy, it's pretty much one of the few things in this world that's like 100% agreed upon. Pegaso was a great company whether they were making trucks, cars, or fucking APVs. Like, to hammer home how good the Z102 was, Big Enzo himself, Enzo Ferrari, hated the car because of how bad it was whooping his Ferraris in terms of speed and technology. He also hated Wilfredo Ricard mainly because he thought he had a role in getting Enzo fired from Alfa before the war. He also believed he was too complicated, and he even blamed Ricard for the death of Attilio Marinoni in an Alfa 158 using the suspension from an Alfa 512 Tipo, the most notable car Ricard designed while at Alfa. It's unclear whether the suspension actually had a role in the crash, by the way, but to talk about the 512 Tipo, Ricard had designed a car with a flat 12 engine, De Dion suspension, and reportedly made up to 500 horsepower and could reach 217 miles an hour in the fucking 30s and 40s. It was never adopted because the handling wasn't good, according to Gonçalves Anesi, another name from the Panamericana video, by the way. He was a test driver for Alfa at the time. By all accounts, Enzo was just salty. Ricard was a pretty damn smart dude, according to his colleagues. Chill guy, too, although he definitely was overcomplicated sometimes, because, you know, you gotta consider the whole De Dion suspension, transaxle transmission, you know, behind the differential, you know, dual overhead cam V8. Yeah. To only solidify the status of Pegaso and specifically the Z102 even more, it actually features as one of the fun little graphics in the Spanish passport, which I've tried to find a photo of. I'm trying to find a photo of it still. Comments mention it on YouTube, on Reddit, on forums, where Pegaso gets brought up for some reason. I just can't find a photo of it. Beyond just the car though, as I mentioned earlier, Pegaso is seen in Spain the same way Peterbilt is in America. The trucks that industrialized and forwarded the progression of their respective countries. And if your company is revered just for making trucks, I think that testifies as to how good of a manufacturer they really were. And there's the sort of brief history lesson on Pegaso. I know another YouTuber made a video about Pegaso years ago. I think it was Intergalactic Bin Man. I didn't watch the video for fear of basically spoiling my research, but it's actually probably going to have the inverse effect of me missing some information that he had. So I don't know. Honestly, this was actually really fun to learn about. A lot more fun than the original Archives episode where I had to learn about Saab getting fucked over by GM. So Mr. or Miss or Mrs. Caledonian Railway 1323, thank you for telling me about Pegaso, and I thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a good day, night, morning, afternoon, whatever. Just have a good one, man. Have a good one.